Hi everyone. Today we're gonna take a look at the different settings you can have for ACC. I've had a few questions on the channel, asking, XYZ, what do you have this set up? What do you have that set up? So I'll go through, the majority. Audio, no real need. But everything else we'll go through it. So video, this is really depends on what your PC is capable of. I have a GTX 1070, and an i5 processor. If you have something better than me, you can run higher than this. To be honest, I can run higher than this, but I limit it to 80 frames because when I'm streaming, if I go any more, I start dropping frames and then the stream starts lagging. But really, with these settings, I could run at 120 FPS. But yeah, when I'm streaming, no chance. I'll just scroll down so you can see it all. Like, this is really a really stable video settings. It mightn't be, like perfect quality, textures and stuff on the cars, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't really be worried about what other cars look like on track. You should be more worried about hitting your apexes and braking points. So yeah, that's basically that. Audio, no point. Personal preferences. Controls. So I have V3 Fanatec up there. TSPC Racer down here. So usual, set all this stuff up over here. I have in the Thrustmaster profiler, it's set till 100%, and then I just change the gain to what I want in the game. It just depends on what kind of strength or what kind of wheel you have. The likes of maybe a G920 or something, or like a lower spec Thrustmaster, like a TMX or something. You might be running maybe like 90-100% gain in here, but for mine, considering the length of races that I do, like the minimum is an hour. So if I probably could race with 85%, but my arms will be non-existent after it, so 65% is more than enough. Dynamic damping, I was somehow in a chat with a dev one time, and he said that's what it was supposed to be. So that's what I have left it at. I used to have it on 0, but I never really noticed a huge amount of difference. Road effects 10%, so that'll be like your curbs and stuff. You don't really want that cutting in too much because it can destroy the feel of the suspension. Frequency, have never had a clue what it actually does, but 333 hertz works good enough for me. We'll come back to steering lock in a minute. So steering linearity 1, brake gamma. So brake gamma, basically load cells like these V3 Fanatec, the TCLMs, the new Thrustmaster pedals like Heisenwald, anything with a load cell, you're supposed to use a brake gamma of 1. So basically your input, it's directly the same, 1-to-1. For the potentiometer type pedals, so that'd be like your T3PA Pros, ordinary T3PAs, the ordinary Logitech pedals, I think you're supposed to run it at about 1.6, roughly. Don't quote me on that, but I think from what I remember before I had load cells, I think that's what it was. A gear shift debouncing. So basically, this, say you're shifting up gears or shifting down gears, if you accidentally double shift, like click the paddle too quickly, this is the length of time the game takes as, to discount the next input. So like I could turn that way up, and if I went like that, then it wouldn't take into account the second input. But personal preference, to be honest, but I just leave it at the lowest. Sometimes it has caught me out when it's double shifted down to first gear from second, and yeah, it's locked the rear axle and I've spun, but I would rather have it than not be changing down gears because I'm changing down too quickly. So steering lock, basically the steering lock is different for every single car in this game. I'm running the Audi at the minute. The Audi is 720 degrees. So you want 720 degrees in the game, and you want it to be 720 degrees in the profiler. So your Fanatec profiler, Thrustmaster profiler, or like if you're using a SimCube or Direct Drive, make sure it's the same. Now, I'll put in the comments below, I've only got the GT3s. I'd never ever seen the GT4 rotations released, but I would assume the GT3s and the GT4s are very similar. Bar the likes of the Jetta, KTM, cars that don't have a GT3 counterpart in the game. So that's one thing I would say, is to make sure to have the correct rotation set for the car, because it makes a huge difference. The way the suspension geometry set up and stuff in this game, it's set up for that rotation, so that's the rotation you should use. I think the highest rotation is the Porsche. It uses 800. But I'll put the full list down below, and you'll be able to see it. Usual stuff all over here. I have my traction control set up in these two buttons on top of the wheel. My brake bias set on my dial. A flasher for if someone's doing something they shouldn't in front of me. Yeah, it's it just depends where you want the layout and stuff to be. You don't need that much, because you can use the, let me see, where is it? Button 4. Cycle HUD MFD. You can use that to change most of your settings, like turn wipers on, off, ABS up and down. You can change the second traction control. There's loads of things you can change just through the HUD. So I don't really see the need for having so many things mapped. Plus I don't have enough buttons to do it in the first place. So if there's any questions on that, just let me know in the comments. Controls general. This is really, let's see, repay length. I just have it set to full in case I want to see anything. Usually it doesn't catch everything, because the races are that long. Disabled. There's nothing really out of this world in general. Probably should have skipped it. Assists. What do I have in here? Manual. I have an automatic clutch, right? So automatic clutch, but I have engine start as manual. So that is for pit stops. So when the game controls the starting and stopping of the car, it's a lot slower than when you control it yourself. So say you're coming up to the pit box.
instead of the game taking its time to turn the car off, you can actually, I have it set on button 11 on this Thrustmaster, but basically whenever I'm coming up to the pits, like up to my pit box, I'll push the ignition and turn the whole car off, turn the ignition off. So as I'm rolling into the pit box, the car's already off. So then as soon as I stop, that means as long as I'm in the correct position, not far enough, too far forward or too far back, the car basically just goes straight up onto the jacks. Then you just have to remember to turn it back on and then have your starter button mapped to a separate button. So I have button 11 and button 12 on the outside of the base. I have those for those two. Wipers, to be honest, I should probably set that to automatic. Lights automatic, pit limiter manual. Yeah, rest is what it is. And HUD. So what do I have in the HUD? I basically have most stuff turned on. I use kilometers an hour because most of the people I race against are from Europe and they deal in kilometers an hour. Virtual mirror on. A big thing for me is, which one is it here? Session in. See this one? Lap time. I turn it off because like you have everything in front of you down in front of the screen. So like you can see your delta on the like dash in the car. So like for you to be glancing up in the top left corner of the screen, looking up to see what your delta is, and the fact that it flashes green and red, I think it's very, very distracting, and it's quicker to glance quickly down than it is to glance up to the top left of the screen. So, it means you can get back up to looking at the track like immediately. During a race, it probably doesn't make that much of a difference because you won't be looking at the delta, but during qualifying, like I know like everyone, like myself included, if you see something flashing between red, grey and green up in the top left corner, you'll always be looking at it to see if your lap's going to be good. Whereas more than likely, if you just left it and you didn't look at it, you would probably be able to finish that lap and have a negative delta and have a quicker lap time. But when you look at it, you're more prone to making mistakes. So I just get rid of that altogether. And the final thing I'm going to show you is, just go into this quickly, is I run bonnet cam. And the reason I run bonnet cam is basically like you can't see anything on the inside of these cars. You know how close you are to the car in front. It's way, way easier to judge your distance. You can get a better view of apexes. Now, downside is you can't really see what's coming left and right of you. So if you're side by side with a car, you're relying a lot on the little radar that comes up in the middle of the screen. But yeah, added advantage of bonnet cam is when it's raining, you can actually see what's happening and you don't have stupid wipers going across the screen annoying you. But yeah, what I want to show you is so basically, if you're using in-car, the dash would just be in the dash, but you can change that in the options so that it's fixed all the time at the bottom of the screen. So if I go here and I go to view settings, you can see my view settings as well. Obviously this bit here changes depending on which car I'm using. Depends on how long the bonnet is and stuff, and like the AMG's got the longest bonnet in the world, so like they would be way different than the Audi, which is really stumpy at the front. But in here, you want to turn this on to have your dash at the bottom of the screen when you're using a bonnet cam. You might even want to use it when you're in car as well. It's a lot bigger than the one you would see in the dash, and it's a lot easier to read. But yeah, I don't really think there's much else I can go over. Hopefully, all of that answers. It might actually cause more questions than I've answered, but you know, hopefully that helps some of you out. The rotations is a big thing, so make sure you check them out. And yeah, as usual, if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, except maybe a few notifications from time to time. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I'll try my best to get back to you as quick as possible. Anyway, yeah, hope you found this enlightening, and I'll talk to you the next time. Laters.